Welcome to the new Cyber Frontier, bringing you the latest news on the local Colorado economy and initiatives that focus on the development of cybersecurity economics. You don't have to be a computer or cybersecurity expert to get plugged in. Your host, Chris Gorog, brings it straightforward, asks the tough questions, and brings the cyber world to a level of understanding for everyone. Chris is personable and opens up with our guests on issues we all would like to see addressed. You can find us on the web at www.newcyberfrontier.com. Now join our host as he introduces the topic for today's New Cyber Frontier.
So welcome back to New Cyber Frontier. Today's guest, Jeff Beauprez, is the CEO of Colorado Networks, which is known on the East Coast branch as Evanix. And Jeff is a member of the NCC and has been on the operational side of the NCX, National Cyber Exchange, which is part of the NCC now, for quite a while.
It's all a little convoluted, so we're still trying to figure it out as well.
And maybe you can help draw some light on it, because that is something that I hear a lot of kind of, well, this might be, but confusion on in general.
It's interesting, you mentioned this has been going on for some time. The folks at Imprimis and us and a few others were discussing what was Western Cyber Exchange 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago now, in trying to push that forward. And Mike Simmons over there was really heading the charge, pushing that forward, looking at cyber issues, and it was primarily around education with small to mid-sized business. What they needed in terms of threat information could be found out. The big spike occurred this past summer when John Hickenlooper, governor of Colorado, made the proposal for the National Cybersecurity Center in Colorado Springs. That gained a lot of attention, and obviously Ed Rios was chosen for the CEO of that. He immediately looked for, okay, what pieces, especially operational, need to be brought into that. He's been going 100 miles an hour trying to put that together. Obviously, Western Cyber became National Cyber because of the relationships on a national scale that they have now. And it's pretty much coming together. Yeah. Slow but sure.
Yeah, and so that was a good intro for how everything kind of came together here with the NCC. But let's talk about you first, Jeff. Give us your background.
Oh, boy, I'll give you, all the dirt comes out now. My background is electrical engineering by discipline. Went into Bell Telephone Labs and Western Electric before the Bell breakup.
Okay.
So I'm showing my age, or telling my age.
Do you need me to cut that part out?
No, you can keep that. Then joined Hewlett-Packard, was in computers from day one, formed the new company in '99, which was Colorado Networks, to serve the small to mid-sized markets, primarily around managed services at the time, but quickly became into business continuity plans, backup, security, because security's always been there. It's just the new buzzword now is cyber. And then through the relationships, formed the new companies, met folks like Imprimis and some of the other ones, and as we say, the rest is history. And the majority of our effort now is in consulting for security, business continuity, and of course, the penetration tests you'll hear are the evaluations of systems for those companies.
So you have teams that do penetration testing?
Correct.
As well as, so do you think the crux of what you do is more technical or on the business side?
We mix it. If you see our tagline in our business side, it's technology from a return on investment. So our key to success over the years, we're now 18 years old, is being able to apply technology from a business perspective. What makes sense from the business perspective, what best fits their need, fits their profit line to help that, and apply We're not just the techies coming in, you have to have the latest toy. It's purely from a business perspective.
So a typical customer, you go in, small company that hasn't thought about security or business continuity, and you start them from the ground up.
It usually begins through some sort of event, some crisis. All of our business comes through referral, and they ask for input, evaluation, what have you. We provide that, and then we grow with them. We like to engage with companies that are probably in the million to 2 million in revenue to start with, and then assist them feed their growth, so to speak, in terms of business processes. And then at some point when they're in need of internal staff, work with them from a consulting perspective at that point. If that's kind of on the managed side. If we're brought in just for security, and that comes in through boards of directors or insurance companies, we'll come in straight from the evaluation, be it penetration testing and things like that.
We'll be right back with the rest of today's show right after these brief messages from our sponsors. Cyber Resilience Institute helps build strong cyber communities designed to prevent members from attack. Like building a neighborhood watch, it takes coordination and a sharing community to protect our identities and valuables in the virtual world. Typically, we hear that organizations know they need to do something to protect their cyber assets, but don't know where to begin. Let Cyber Resilience Institute help your community create an action plan. Cyber Resilience Institute will build your community or business marketplace so that it is designed to support a collective cyber defense. Contact them for more information at cyberresilienceinstitute.org.
What type of things do you have insurance companies coming to you and saying, we need you to get engaged? When would that start, and what would it look like?
It's an excellent question, Chris. The insurance companies at one time had business liability. That was it. Now they've, for the most part, have split off insurance policies where you have business liability and cyber liability. It is separate. And they're requiring some level of due diligence or initial assessment that a company has the basic protection for their systems before they issue the cyber policy.
So you get involved
risk
pre-policy
Pre-policy
writing.
wise.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. And we may make recommendations. We may give them a clean bill of health. Sometimes they just come back and say, what can we do? We have some proprietary processes that we can turn loose, and it can tear things up pretty good from an informational perspective, finding out holes and such. So, and that's very important to them, and also, like you say, to the insurance companies.
So do you get involved post, and that's what I was wondering, post
Event?
Disaster, post event, post breach, and what would one of those look like?
We do. Sometimes, again, the insurance companies will contact us. We've had several instances over the last few months where there has been a breach or a loss of data. It doesn't mean that the bad guys have actually got in a system, but they have lost information by employees sending it out or various things. And they will ask us to come in and do an evaluation so that they can build a remediation plan. And it may come from the insurance carrier as well, saying, all right, we will pay this claim.
Is it ever, what is the dollar figure that this customer's lost that the insurance company wants to know, or is it more of how do we make them better in the future?
Both at times, and it always changes. The story is never quite the same, which is always interesting in this industry. They'll want a potential dollar loss, especially if it's intellectual property. If they have stolen drawings or various things, they're looking at the financial impact to the business. And they'll ask us, what's the possibility of loss and things like that as part of that insurance claim.
Okay. Interesting. I always wanted to wonder, how do insurance companies, how are they interfacing? I was at a board for the NCC, the board meeting training, and somebody said that they had paid $250,000 for an insurance policy, a cyber insurance policy, a year or two previously, and had dropped it because the cyber insurance, there was always a loophole that they would never pay out, basically. So it was almost like you're at your own risk if you're a small company, a medium-sized company with cyber, because the policies either don't fit, there's so many loopholes that they'll always find a way out, or they no way match what the needs are actually going to be. So what do you see in that area?
It's a very good question, Chris. The industry, the insurance industry, is still very green, so to speak, in this area. They don't quite know what to cover and how to handle those situations. There are a few companies that are leading that pack in terms of coverage, and you want to work with a really quality agent to help you negotiate that minefield, so to speak. And we could talk about that at some point as to, you know, recommendations and things like that. But you do want to work with some quality folks on the insurance side so you don't step in those loopholes. Because it is. Generally, cyber insurance is not too expensive depending on the type of operation, but you definitely want to have, you know, the coverage. In the latest issues, an example that you brought up a week or so ago, I was in the northern part of the state. We were brought in, a company that received what we call a phishing email. The financial officer was very eager to please the boss and attached hundreds of payroll records to an email and sent it out, and turned out it didn't go to the executive officer. The cost there, if you had a cyber policy, was the fact that, you know, now you've got coverage for credit monitoring, you know, other, just covering your employee costs along that way. And they didn't have any insurance, so they have a massive bill coming up, and they don't know how they're going to cover it.
So in something like that, that's a great example. What is the cost that a company doesn't have any insurance? And we'll say that there was only 50 records on that email. What is the cost that a company might see per record when you come in and do analysis?
It typically, and not including our costs, it's just legal reporting, and each state requires different documents to be filed as far as notification. So you've got lawyer fees, you've got, like I said, credit monitoring fees. It averages between $400 and about $800 per record. That's per person. Yeah. So if you've got, let's say, 300, 400, 500 records, adds up in a hurry.
So the small business that has something like this happen, and they might not even know how to catch that it has happened. Like literally, we were in the NCC training again, and they pulled up information from the dark web on somebody's company, and they said, you know, is my company's information for my company being sold out there? And found out that there was hundreds of records being sold from their company, and they had no way of knowing at their company, it was a smaller business, that they were even getting breached. It was almost like ignorance is bliss in some way, but now that company wants to do contracts with $1 million companies, and this information is going to come out in the future or whatever. What kind of advice from somebody that has the company that size, that one, they might have been breached already, they have no way of knowing, they don't have enough security controls to know to catch it if they had been. What's the step forward or path forward on something like that?
Great point. I would encourage those companies to talk with NCC. They have the resources there through some partnerships that they have where you can go out and check the dark web ahead of time and look at that, because they'll find that, especially in government contracting, that you have to show due diligence, you have to have certain security procedures in place before they will accept the contract, because you're transferring information into that prime, so to speak. They want to make sure that there isn't a portal built in their back door as well. So there's a lot of effort now, and you'll hear us talk about NIST 800 requirements. So National Institute of Science and Technology has come out with a framework of cyber requirements, controls, things you have to do as a business. It depends on the business, depends on the type of product you may manufacture, something like that. And there are tools that will go through and extract those 800 and some items, because you certainly don't want to fill all of those out. And then you can show it. It's very similar to the ISO certifications from years back starting of process procedure for manufacturers. So think of it as a cyber version of ISO certification.
We'll be right back with the rest of today's show right after these brief messages from our sponsors. Over 3 million data breaches happen every single day. That's over 2,000 records being compromised every minute. So often, we focus on securing web data access. But what if the attackers are already inside, having gained direct access to your storage through data management software? When it comes to communications that go directly into your storage devices, make SNIA your first line of protection. SNIA's conformance testing limits outdated communications that are known to be used by attackers. It works continuously behind the background to make sure your storage is protected. To find out if your data is truly secure, visit our website at www.snia.org/cybertest.
So now that's what you do when you put a plan together. You make sure companies meet all those things.
Correct.
If they meet all those things, are they pretty safe?
They're pretty safe. I mean, the biggest thing, especially in small to mid-sized business, is the phishing email. You can put...
Yeah, how do you protect against that, huh?
That's the tough one. Now, you can put hardware in place and antivirus and various pieces of software that do a very good job of stopping the intrusions. Nothing's perfect, but it stops. It's pretty good. The phishing email is very good because now you're having to filter your employees. And how are you diligent in training them? How do you instill a little bit of cynicism in looking at those emails, and how not to have them click on something? Yeah. So there's various training programs out there. Symantec has one called Think Before You Click. Does a great job. There are services, we can do it, or various companies that send out test emails on a regular basis. Could be once a week, once a month, whatever the company decides, where they craft a very good email that appears to be coming from, let's say, HR, and asks you, you need a little bit of payroll information as an update. They'll send it out internally and see who clicks on it. The manager then gets a report of how successful the email was and who clicked on the message. So they may get some remedial training, and they monitor it. But that's probably the best way to hold down the...
Yeah, I've heard all about training. So now if I'm sitting there and I'm in the situation, I'm the CFO, I just clicked and I sent out 100 records on an email, and I think, wait a minute, who did I really send that out to?
The fix is easy.
But we're talking about a fix, but now we're talking about almost an ethics dilemma. How much do I really say, oh, well, let me do diligence to see if I sent it to the right person, or just, oh, well, it's happened in the past?
There is no harm in asking beforehand. And part of that training is instilling the thought in all the staff. There is no harm to pick up the telephone and call that requesting person. Say, hey, I got an email from you. You're looking for these records. I just want to double check, make sure that it's right. Do you really want me to send this out? That will basically stop all of it. Just verifying, like you say, if you get an email from the CEO, call him. Say, hey, do you really want this information? That will usually stop the problem. The other one is you really have to scrutinize the email address to say, is it valid? Because it's very easy to change one of our emails. It can look like, let's pick on Google. It could be a Google gmail.com, but if you add a couple of letters in the domain, you can redirect it. Now, obviously, Google's going to take issue with that, but you can redirect the mail.
So what about the company that the guy sent out the email and they met and they said, nothing will probably come of that? Is there recourse that,
good question.
Do they have to, I know they're by requirement they're supposed to report that. What is the recourse? I'm a small business. That's something that if I investigated too much, it might put me out of business. I just heard $800 a record. C'est la vie. What's the chances there's going to be a problem?
I can't give you legal advice, but I would have a discussion with their company attorney. And reporting gets very interesting in this. And there are some cyber attorneys available that can counsel you on that. And their first point is, in those situations, call the legal counsel first and say, okay, we believe this has occurred. What do we need to do in terms of process? Now, there's some boundaries that you can cross or not cross that define what reporting requirements. If there's 50 and not a lot of dollars involved, there will be some level of reporting. As you go up, obviously that changes. They'll counsel you as to how to proceed. Do we call a cyber group like us or another company as to how to take a look at that? And if there's any records that we can chase, so to speak, where'd the email come from? In one of the recent cases, we've had, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them in the last week or two. In some cases, we couldn't go very far. We brought in the FBI. We have a very good working relationship with them. And the people who had sent these phishing emails had cloaked themselves through a number of different servers where you couldn't trace it. So in that case, they're aware of it. They're going to have to report it, but there's really no recourse against the perpetrator.
So has it become a cheaper affair if they lost something, if you can find who did it and maybe get that information under control? Is that like one of your things you're trying to do?
You're probably not going to get it under control because it's probably already out on the dark net and gone. But hopefully to stop it going forward. So again, it's a after the fact sort of issue. The chance of recovery of that information is pretty slim.
Yeah.
Pretty slim.
And even if you did, you don't know what they did with it sometime in the mean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They could have sold it to 10 different people, and this time of year, and what's driving all this is it's tax season. And if they can file a false tax return and get a refund out of it after they've altered the data, you go to file your real one and it says, oh, you can't do that. You've already filed. Onus is on you to prove your identity and then straighten it out. And it'll take you several months of effort. So.
I've heard that a couple times now, just recently, about the filing of false income taxes is one of the bigger things with identity theft now.
It is, because it's pretty easy. Again, with phishing emails, whether you're doing it from a company perspective or a one-on-one person, obviously the bigger fish are the company because of the effort they invest. If they get a few hundred records, that's good return on them. And if they can get it in a editable form, like let's say Adobe, where they can alter the payroll information itself, they can change your yearly salary, the taxes paid, and create a pretty substantial refund.
Yeah. Interesting. Are you dealing with those type of things?
In the last week, yes. There's been, as of Friday, there were 3.
Wow. So it's already started.
Just,
tax season is now
Colorado.
Tax fraud season.
That's right.
Yeah.
Huge.
Cyber tax fraud. Wow. So, but you did say the first thing I heard is call an attorney before they call Colorado Networks, and that's your recommendation to somebody in this situation.
Talk to your legal counsel. Yeah, and hopefully the companies have got counsel on retainer to start with, but have that discussion and set some planning in place. You don't want to just call, general IT support and say, hey, we got a breach. And
because they don't have attorney-client privilege, they have to immediately put that stuff out.
And you really don't want to put it out unless you have to. I mean, that's the kind of advertising you don't need.
Yeah, understood.
Even though it's not their fault, people take a look at it and go, oh, so-and-so's been breached. Can we really trust them? It's a valid question. Not really. It's not their fault. So it shouldn't be an impact on their business. Unfortunately, you can get hit with it.
Yeah. So this was a great topic to hear from somebody who does this, who recommends stuff to different clients. But you also do penetration testing.
Correct.
So now, what percentage do you do penetration testing versus more this after the fact type of work?
It's shifting very quickly because of all of this that's going on that you see, and the requirements for insurance companies and things. And we're probably a quarter to a third of our work now is penetration test.
And that's going up, you're saying?
That's going up. It's climbing.
Okay. So you're getting people more aware that, hey, we need to need to do something before we have a problem, and they bring you in. You do. I mean, from a business perspective, it's probably not just wire biting, doing hammering on their networks, their systems. They're probably more of a business analysis you do first.
Yeah, there's a lot of upfront work, and it's scalable in there. And you're right, Chris. There is some physical assessment. In other words, access to buildings and equipment and things like that. There's some discussions about how they're set up currently, a general assessment of what they have, and those can be selected separately. It's not an all or nothing sort of a palette of services. And then in some cases we'll go ahead and do the full, where we attack electronically both external and internal. We don't do physical attacks, obviously. That's for law enforcement, but we'll do the electronic side.
Okay. So when somebody contacts you now, or anybody that's doing penetration testing, the first thing that you want to have a conversation with them. Talk to them about what they're already doing. Does a lot of your work go beyond that, or can you usually take their word for it, or does it depend on how technically savvy they are?
It goes back to like an ISO audit again. We'll ask first, show us your processes and procedures. What do you have in place from a business continuity perspective, protection perspective? Pick a few things, dig into it a little bit. Does it make sense? Have they executed those plans? Have they tested them? Are they current in them? And we may test a few of those items that we find. If we see some holes, we'll dig a little deeper, and that'll continue. If we see dust on the manual in the corner of the office, this is their cyber plan. Well, when's the last time you really got it out and read through it? So we'll progress as needed like that.
Okay. And I ask these questions a lot because I use these trainings a lot for my students, to bring an expert into the classroom and say, hey, what is it that you'll be doing in these lines of work? So if you're talking to somebody that you might need in the future as an employee, as support or whatever, what types of things, I guess first of all, what types of interest do you look for people to have that come into your line of work?
Good question. And I'm probably unorthodox in that respect. A lot of groups will say I must have a bachelor's degree in engineering or blah blah blah. We look at it from more of the experience side, especially in cyber. Is having a formal background is great, but it is not the golden card to get in, because the field of cyber changes so quickly. We're talking about months to 2 months quarterly where major things are changing. So certifications are far more important, and hands-on experience.
Which certification are you looking for?
If they have CISSP, that's a good start. Most of the staff now are what they call CEH, which is Certified Ethical Hacker, what we call the white hats. So you have the black hats, you have the white hats. They've got great experience. They have to prove their abilities and go through some extensive testing before they can show the
credential. So now, but you said you did a lot of work on the business side. Is there something for people that have that kind of overall reaching of the business organization process that you look for?
Business side is unique. And we don't really interview. I hesitate there for a second. It's more through relationship building, because the business side takes that very personable, relationship kind of effort to understand what's going on from a business perspective. Folks that come out with general business background can run a business. They're doing great at it, but when they start to look at business process and how to audit and look into that, it takes a little more experience. So we're looking at maybe 10 years, 12 years of experience on the business side, where we're looking at that. Technical.
So a combination of the business and having a certification, is that that'd be a perfect.
That's the golden nugget right there. If they've got that great business sense, a little bit of marketing sense, where they can look at it from a higher level for the success of the business, and have some technical background, that's a great candidate to have. And I always talk about it's difficult to take an engineer and teach them marketing or business, but if they have marketing and business and then go back and add the technical, that's an easier path.
So that path actually works better for you.
Yes.
So like a management information systems business degree that would cross over to learn a certificate.
And if they had CEH to go with that, great plan. Good
Right?
way to do it.
That's a perfect thing, because students always want guidance on, I'm looking at my career now, what would be the best thing for me to put together that people are actually looking for? And you have a little bit of a different twist because you do so much of the business side. So many of the students are they're after that CEH or that certificate to go out and do hacking because they want to sit in front of a computer and learn that. But having so much in the business and the continuity planning is a lot of times those skills are not so honed by the students that are looking at more of the technical approach.
Exactly, and it's esoteric. It's hard to teach those skills a lot of times. It's more of a personality. And when you can find that personality and then give them that technical piece, that's a winner.
It's a winner. Okay. So just kind of in closing, anything that you do, things you have coming up that you would like to get out to our audience or have people involved with, or new upcoming news that you can release?
I'd say stay close to the NCC press releases. They've been coming fast and furious the past couple of weeks. Some of the training events coming up. FCA is on the
February 6th through 8th. We just talked to
8th.
them. We just released something from them on Monday. So
And some of these conferences that are coming up, go out, and the big part is network with the folks that attend these. Building those relationships is huge. You're going to find people that know a piece of the puzzle, so to speak, in terms of cyber or business that can be really helpful. And it kind of goes to, I say I'm unorthodox. In any of our discussions, if someone comes up to us and says, I'm an expert, be it technically, whatever it is, I'm an expert, the discussion's over. We stop it right there. The subject field is so complex that everybody has an area that they're really good at, but you can't possibly know it all.
Yeah.
You don't know the business side inside out or all the nuances of cyber or network, things like that, and that's why you have a team. And the stronger the team and the more diverse the team, the better you're going to be.
yeah.
So when they say expert, so you ask about the students, never ever in an interview say, I'm an expert, because you're setting yourself up for failure.
There, advice number one. Be a team player.
Be a team player.
Be meek on what your abilities are, because nobody has the whole pie, just a piece of it.
None of us, me included.
I know exactly what you're saying there. I'm the same way. All right, well, thanks for joining today, Jeff. Great conversation, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of listeners that are interested to hear about things for their small business. So thanks a lot for joining.
You're very welcome. Anytime, Chris, and we're always open to questions. Give us a call, and glad to lend a hand.
Yeah, and give your website address out for.
Website is www.colorado-networks.com. Colorado-networks.com is the main website.
All right, and reach out to them. You heard about Jeff and his company, and got an idea for when you might need their support. But thanks a lot, Jeff.
You're very welcome.
Have a good day.
Bye.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of New Cyber Frontier. Remember to get involved. Often we think that someone else will handle privacy and security in their virtual world, but you are the only one truly in command of your virtual fate. Join our mailing list so we can keep you informed of breaking news and new releases. If you have an idea, if you have a question that you would like to hear answered, or if you want to get involved with our efforts, reach out to us at newcyberfrontier.com. We also encourage you to visit our sponsors' links, as they are the ones that really make this show possible. I want to thank each of you for supporting the show, and we look forward to seeing you back for the next episode of New Cyber Frontier.